What is going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer and Eric Hansen live on the Blue and Gold YouTube channel. Former Notre Dame wide receiver Robbie Toma will be joining us very shortly. We're talking about the new college football playoff rankings. Notre Dame, Eric, sticking at number 4. Excuse me, number 9. I was pulling up a Twitter page and the number 4 was popped up. Number 9. Sorry about that. We're going to talk about that in today's show. The holiday season is here, folks, and Academy Sports and Outdoors has the legendary gifts you need at undefeatable prices every day. Shop in-store or online at academy.com to save on gifts on everybody's list, from football jerseys and basketball hoops to fire pits and deer stands. The most wonderful time of the year happens here this holiday season. Give the gift of fun from Academy Sports and Outdoors. You just got to think like 6,000 or 7,000 people are going to watch this or listen to this, and they're going to hear me within the first minute screw something up. So what else is new? Eric, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, and I am crestfallen that Seton Hall was not in the top 25 after extending that basketball game, that important basketball game between unranked teams, to delay the rankings for an hour.
Of shit. Now, unless something delayed that game that is like understandable, like what the heck was that? I couldn't believe it. Eric, so let's first pop up the playoff ranking, and then we'll look at the bracket if it started today. There was a few items I think are interesting here. Pitt back to the top 25. Now, in the AP poll, Georgia Tech was still above Pitt. Robbie Thomas with us now. Pitt was still above, or excuse me, in the AP poll, Georgia Tech was still above them. But look, that's a poll. People mess that up. But the committee is very much, we're placing these specifically. So Pitt over Georgia Tech. Yep. So they're back in the field. USC barely dropped after losing their third game. I think that's very notable for Notre Dame. Miami passing up Utah is notable, but I wouldn't sweat too much. And then Oregon jumps Ole Miss for that win against USC. So, Eric, what was your reactions to seeing all this?
Pretty predictable for me. I think the only thing that surprised me a little bit was number 25, Arizona. But I thought the committee went pretty much according to how I've kind of seen them go. You know, I vote every week on these same teams, and we don't agree on all of them, but I have a pretty good rhythm for the fact that they like Utah much better than I do. I like Vanderbilt better than they do. So, but nothing really scary to me about these rankings. It really comes down to, and this is the way they want it to, the games this weekend and the games in championship weekend, which it should be.
So you're not concerned about Miami creeping closer to Notre Dame and them being put in the same pod or whatever they call it?
I'm not. And this is why, Mike. It's because they have separation between those two teams now. They know what the entire resumes look like. If they're in the same pod, yeah, they're going to have more discussions about them at the same time. But they've clearly, for a long time, felt like Notre Dame was the better of those two teams. And I'm not sure that unless Miami beats Pitt 70-7 this week, that they could really say, okay, this really changes our opinion about Miami. I think Miami's really good. If there was a 16-team playoff, I think they should be in it. And there may be a scenario where both these teams get in it. But I do think the committee's got it right. And I don't think they're going to say all of a sudden, well, wait a second, just because Miami is this close, now we're going to change our opinions about these two teams.
Yeah, that would be crazy if they did that.
Right, it would be. And you have to give the committee credit. To this point, there's not been a lot of crazy this year. Even though they've had to swap out committee chairman, there's not been a lot of crazy this year. There's really not been a lot of crazy in the history of these rankings. There have been hiccups here and there. The first year there was some crazy stuff in the Alabama-Florida State controversy, but by and large, most people feel like at the end the committee gets it right.
Robbie, thoughts on this?
The one thing that I'm thinking right now is the only thing that could really, in my opinion, screw up Notre Dame is if BYU somehow beats Texas Tech. I mean, that's when they match up in their conference championship. So, because it sounds to me like the committee really likes Texas Tech and their run defense. Are they still the top ranked run defense? I'm not sure. I know that was the case a few weeks ago, but I feel like that could kind of shake things up for us.
Yeah, Eric, is there still a doomsday scenario for you? Like, or do you think if BYU were to beat Texas Tech, that Texas Tech would drop below Notre Dame? That would be a pretty long fall. If it's like, okay, Bama wins the SEC title game and BYU wins the Big 12. Would that
think
drop Notre Dame to 11?
I don't know that they naturally go to 11, but it becomes a very difficult conversation involving Notre Dame. And Robbie pointed it out very well. If BYU beats Texas Tech, especially if it's in a close game, it's hard to imagine Texas Tech falling behind Notre Dame at that point. It could, but it's hard to imagine that happening. And then Alabama winning the SEC championship, especially if they beat Texas A&M, it's hard to imagine that Texas A&M could fall enough and that Alabama would stay behind Notre Dame. But it would make it a kind of a sweaty conversation for Notre Dame. So that's the doomsday scenario to me. That's the one. I mean, there's some other things that could be weird that happen, but there's also some things that could happen in Notre Dame's favor too, that this weekend that could wipe out that. For example, if Oregon lost up at Washington and Seattle this weekend, if Ole Miss, with all the crazy stuff going on with Lane Kiffin, loses the Egg Bowl to Mississippi State, there are scenarios where it gives Notre Dame a little bit more breathing room and maybe even an opening to host a first round game.
How did you guys touch on this? Sorry, I know I was having some video trouble, but did you guys touch on the Oregon flipping Ole Miss? I mean, I've been kind of they've been kind of my dark horse, Ole Miss. So I mean, I don't really agree with the committee's decision on that one.
Dude, Ole Miss, you look at their schedule, they haven't really done anything. The only thing they've done is just not lose 2 games.
That's a good point.
I mean,
I guess the and it hasn't been a ton, but anything that I've seen from them, they've been pretty impressive.
They beat Oklahoma on the road. Excuse me. That's a really good win. And then their win against LSU at the time was a top 5 LSU team, but of course LSU is not very good. And I guess you lose at Georgia by 8. I think that's their biggest thing is the Oklahoma game. And then if they were a 2-loss team, like let's say they lost to LSU or they lost to Oklahoma, they'd be in that same boat. Probably in the 11 behind Notre Dame. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, they've had. I like a lot of things about Ole Miss, including their offensive coordinator. I think he's a really bright young coach. That's Charlie Weiss Jr. But they have a lot of close calls on their schedule. They beat Kentucky in a 1-score game. Arkansas was driving for the winning score. They fumble. Washington State was 24-21. That Florida game was a 3-point game when Florida went for it, I think, inside their own 20 and didn't get it. And then Ole Miss tacks on a late touchdown there. So they've been living right. But I do think they're a very good team. I'm not sold on their defense. I am sold on their offense.
Eric, let me ask you this. If Michigan beats, for you folks watch YouTube, let me put the bracket back up. If Michigan beats Ohio State, like I feel like the committee, by moving up Michigan, it was at least 1 or 2 spots, is kind of priming them for like, let's go ahead and move them up now in case they do beat Ohio State. Then it's not a huge jump. Like, is that another scenario that Notre Dame's going to have to sweat out? Like Michigan beating Ohio State after, because Eric, I think I asked you this on Sunday, and you probably said no. I'm not worried about that. But now, after seeing what the committee just did,
well, they would have to move them all the way up to number 9.
Hold on, Eric. They were 18, and they moved them up to 15.
Right. But again, there's other teams in that middle area that lost. Like I think Georgia Tech was in that range last week, and they lost. So it wasn't like they jumped over a whole bunch of teams.
And USC, Georgia Tech, and
USC also lost.
And they
didn't
passed
drop
Texas.
Very much.
They passed Texas as well.
Correct. So Texas was the jump. Texas was the team they jumped, but I think Georgia Tech and USC were in that area that vacated. So they were going to move up. So I don't think necessarily they would. I mean, if they beat Ohio State 77-0, then you'd have to really look and see if Ohio State belonged in the field. But in a close game, I don't think so. What is their good wins? I mean, they lost to Oklahoma, they lost badly to USC, and that was, I believe, an October game around the time that Notre Dame played. Yeah. So Washington, who's not ranked, what is the basis for Michigan to be in the playoff? Just beating Ohio State? And there's people that are questioning Ohio State's schedule. I think they're the number one team in the country, but Tyler and I were talking about this on Football Never Sleeps last night. Other than Texas, which is what, 15, what's Ohio State's great wins this year? I mean, I was reading off who they played, and it's a lot of the teams in the bottom part of the Big Ten. I still think they're the number one team, but I mean, when you start slicing it up, and if they lose to Michigan, I don't know that they fall out of I don't think they fall out of the playoff picture, but they could fall a long way. And then is Michigan ranked ahead of them at that point?
Oh, I don't know. Robbie, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I think you guys have been following Dave Portnoy and his love for Michigan. I don't see them having a shot in hell against Ohio State. I mean, I know that their resume. I know that their resume isn't impressive, but what they did last year is still impressive. I mean, they were physical, and I haven't watched a ton of Ohio State this year, but I don't think Michigan has a chance this year.
Yeah, it's like a 10.5. That's the line. I think Ohio State wins by 20 points. I think they're just going to kick the crap out of Michigan.
Yeah, they're rolling.
If Michigan beats Ohio State, that is just going to be the most bonkers thing. I mean, if they win, 5 years in a row after Ohio State won like a decade in a row, that would be nuts.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, Mike, again, I think these guys look at it like most AP voters do. You look at the whole season. I mean, just a few weeks ago, Michigan beats Purdue by 21-16. Their second to last game from now, Northwestern, 24-22, white knuckler. I mean, there's some unimpressive wins on their schedule, and there's not a lot of impressive wins on their schedule. So if they just get the kill shot with Ohio State, I don't think that's enough. I mean, it's just not enough for me to consider them a playoff team.
Let me give a nod to the podcast audience. Sorry, guys, I haven't really mentioned what the projected playoff bracket would be. It's basically the same as last week. Notre Dame still in the 8-9 game. If the tournament started today, they'd be on the road playing at Norman. Stop me if you've heard that before. Notre Dame playing at Oklahoma. Notre Dame had a good result there last time. Now, this has Miami in the field as the ACC rep in the 11, but as we all know, Miami needs like the most help of the 4 or 5 teams still vying for the ACC title game. Ole Miss, Bama in the 7-10, but I mean, Bama with the SEC title game, presumably, that they'll be in if they beat Auburn. Bama can really, their ranking can change. We talked about Texas Tech. They're in the 5-12 right now, with Tulane being the group of 5 representative. Texas Tech, they still have that BYU game, which would be really interesting in the Big 12 championship game. And of course, Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, and Texas A&M being the 4 buys right now in that order. And Oregon in the 6, jumping Ole Miss. So, let's talk about Notre Dame specifically. I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now, Robbie. Now, Robbie, if you give me crap about you not being on the show for a couple of weeks, that's a not on me.
Hey,
I've been asking.
I'm a T-ball coach. Apparently, I know nothing about baseball, but they tend to schedule these games around Notre Dame. I'm starting to think I got USC fans running this league. So
even with this 10:30 p.m. Eastern time game, you can't do the Saturday post game.
This one I know can do. There's a finale for the UH. Hey, listen, I love UH football. It's the last game of the year. I support Timmy Chang and those guys. I'd love to be on the
Just
show.
So you know, you're making Eric Hansen in his elderly age do the show at 2 a.m. Eric,
hey, tell Notre Dame get the mercy rule. Let's tell the boys run the clock early.
Eric, you're a spring chicken. I'm just kidding.
No.
But yeah, so Notre
Well,
Dame
see,
and
Robbie, I was surprised was on the show tonight because I figured he'd be at the Seton Hall USC basketball, really important basketball game tonight in the Maui Classic.
I know what a play by ESPN or ESPN as they call it in the biz.
Oh my
gosh, that was terrible. But hey, shout out to the Maui Classic. Trying to help Lahaina rebuild. So that's good stuff.
That is good stuff.
So yeah, thoughts on Notre Dame potentially in Oklahoma? Like, there's very much a world here, Eric, where those two teams just stick there. And then Robbie, thoughts on this right now?
Well, only good memories for me in Norman, so I'm all for it. But I mean, I'm not sold on Oklahoma. Obviously they had a good win against Alabama, but man, maybe I'm biased, but I just think we are a really good football team and everything we're doing. I mean, one of my favorite plays, I think Mike Golick had tweeted it out, was Malachi Fields and Faison playing tag mid-run. It's just kind of showing that these kids are having a lot of fun while whooping ass. So, I don't think Oklahoma strikes any fear in me right now.
As far as me and Oklahoma, Mike, you look at them and their defense is really good, and their offense is the worst team on that screen. I won't include Tulane in that, but as far as the power conference teams, by far the worst offense. I mean, it's stunning when you look at their numbers that they've been able to win this many games. And that's why I gave Missouri a fighting chance. The problem was Missouri's offense isn't very good either. And Oklahoma's defense played up to its expectations. But that LSU game could be a 13-12 game. LSU's defense when Whit Weeks plays is pretty good. And who knows what headspace those guys are in these days. But Oklahoma is not going to score a lot in that.
Yeah, to your point, Eric, it's like their offense relies heavily on their defense, right? To get turnovers, and obviously we got the best backs in the game, so we don't. But our defense has been top 5 scoring defense, I believe, the last 8 weeks or so. So it's not that we need help, but we're definitely getting help.
It's a good matchup for Notre Dame, and I'm not saying that's a layup or anything like that. But if you had to pick one of these teams to play first, if it's not Tulane, it would be Oklahoma.
I was gonna go Tulane.
Yeah,
you gotta love what that coach said, where he said if we're one of the top 25 teams in the nation, there must be some pretty shitty football going on. So I thought that was pretty funny by Tulane's coach.
I hope I had muted myself. I had a call from a hashtag source that I needed to take.
You did.
Okay, thank God.
We went ahead without you. Even at my elderly age, I was able to carry on a conversation.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're still awake, Eric.
Yeah. Well, I have my coffee. That's
okay. See, it's 3:20 in Hawaii, so that's why I got my coffee.
Okay.
Eric, you're such a good sport. I'm sure you took that joke well.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I went out to dinner with my grandkids, and my granddaughter was guessing everybody's ages. She guessed that I was 7 years older than my oldest son. So that was pretty good. She thought I was 53 and he was 46. I said, so that means I was 7 when I became a father. And she goes, yeah, that could happen. I go, okay, you haven't had the talk yet.
Math checks out.
No, this is not an ad I'm about to read. I just wanted to make sure I threw this out there. We do have the Augie's Locker Room football behind me. And then also we have the Steve Angeli. I took it out of its case. The Steve Angeli. Augie saw a clip of me talking about the Angeli helmet sign that he had on his website. And I was like, I need this. And he sent it to me. Eric, what are you about to? Okay. Eric's put on a linebacker hat.
I didn't know this was a show and tell.
Well, I mean, you have a Notre Dame. You have a game worn Notre Dame jersey behind you, so I think that might win.
I don't know. I'm waiting to crack that whiskey open after we win the national title. So, come on, Coach Free. I want to open this.
Augie also sent me some cards. I got a signed Jack Kaiser card. I have like a first edition Audric Estime. And how about a little Bryant Young? Paul Hornig? Come on. I got Augie.
Wow,
Augie
Paul
really hooked
Hornig.
me up. Yeah, Augie hooked me up. So anyways, and before we move on, boys, any other talk about Notre Dame, in this ranking? Again, it's 3 straight weeks of them in the 9. I do have a headline of this podcast and YouTube show, like path to host first round game. Who does Oklahoma have?
LSU.
So they could still lose that football game.
Right. Right. There's losable games for the teams in front of them. They're not all automatic. I'd say the one that is automatic is Indiana and Purdue, and Indiana's high enough that they're irrelevant in that conversation. But Oregon, Washington, the Egg Bowl with Mississippi State and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Alabama and Auburn, even with Ashton Daniels back playing this week and Deuce Knight, I guess, in reserve. Crazy stuff happens in the Alabama-Auburn game. I expect Alabama to win. And again, Washington is a different animal up in Seattle, and maybe they'll be the Washington that's looked good at times, and maybe they'll just roll over against Oregon. I'm not sure, but those are all interesting games.
Yeah, Justin ND Sniper says we're stuck at 9 and banking on it. There's got to be one upset somewhere. Now, does that move Notre Dame into the 8th spot? It's really hard to predict, but I feel
I like that 9
confident
spot. I like that 9 spot just for no other reason than it's just 9.
Oh gosh,
I love the 9 spot. We'll take it. No, but I think, I don't know why, but Indiana's had a hell of a season, but I am not sold on them at all. I mean, was it Ole Miss and Bama? If it were to be this weekend, the winner of that, I feel like, would just pound Indiana. So I'm not too sold on those guys.
What do you think about that, Eric?
I'll tell you what, they passed the math test. I mean, when you look at their stats on both sides of the ball, they're impressive. The problem is their non-conference schedule was so soft with Indiana State and a couple other, group of 6 teams. And then you had most of the softest part of the Big Ten. I'll give them credit, though, for going out to Oregon, out to Eugene, and beating them by double digits. That's what holds Indiana up in my mind. I saw those guys, and you guys did too, last December. And there's some good players on that team, and most of them are back, and they added through the portal. They added a couple of former Notre Dame players, and Pat Coogan at center and Holden Stays at tight end. But I have them number 3. I think that they deserve that. I'm not sure how they'll hold up in the playoff, but I think them being in it last year is going to help them. But I would agree with Robbie. I think probably, if it's a 7-2 matchup, the 7 team might be favored in that game.
I mean, they do have a pretty strong win at Oregon by 10, and they controlled that entire game. So it wasn't like any kind of fluky win. Like if I'm remembering that game correctly, and I mean, heck, even a 31-7 win against Wisconsin looks decent right now. Beating the crap out of Illinois, winning at Iowa. Maybe I need to rethink Indiana because I was on the same boat as Robbie, but I mean, they do have some pretty strong wins. It's just Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State is a joke.
And it is, and it inflates your numbers. But when you look at their numbers, there's not a fault line. You don't look and say, oh, if you're going to beat them, this is where they're going to crack. There's not an obvious one. You look at most of the other teams, there is. Now, Notre Dame is becoming a team that doesn't have one either. I mean, you look at their numbers across the board. Where are they weakest? I guess you would say kicker, a clutch field goal or something. But they are in the metrics that matter, which is run defense, total defense, turnover margin, pass efficiency, and rush offense. Notre Dame is elite. They're in the top 25 in all 5 of those. And they're the only team that's ranked between 5 and 12 that is in the top 5 in all of those.
Okay. Let's talk about sponsor for today's show. That's ESQ Clothing. and it is seen on all of your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. Founded by Notre Dame alum Ga Wang, ESQ is your go-to spot for the best handmade custom suits, sport coats, tuxedos, shirts, and more. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka, book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com. Mention blue and gold at your appointment and receive 10% off your entire purchase, esqclothing.com. This is the brand that when Marcus Freeman did his press conference, noticed Jack Sobel's shirt, said nice shirt, and Freeman said, is that ESQ? Didn't Freeman say that, Eric?
He did.
How
I
the
wish he had
hell
said
did
nice.
he notice that?
I wish he had said nice drip. That would have been really cool.
I mean, I'm sure Jack must have been on cloud 9 the entire week.
He was. I tried to tell him that Marcus liked my winter coat better, and he goes, well, you didn't say anything about it. And I said, well, he said it with his eyes.
All right, that's esqclothing.com. Check them out if you are in the Midwest or just going to Chicago. Yeah, esqclothing.com. Any other playoff talk, boys, before we move on?
I was just looking at the little chat here, and I didn't realize it, but it's going to be a cold one there for Miami up in Pittsburgh. So I kind of go back to when we played Miami in the Sun Bowl. And,
Snowy El Paso.
Oh, those guys did not want to be there at all. And, you know, I was it a shutout? Was it 31-0? I don't remember.
I think it was 31-10. I think they got a couple of late cheap points, but I mean, it was absolute boat race.
We took care of them, so that'll be interesting to follow this week.
And this is only Miami's second time out of the state of Florida all year. The other one was Virginia Tech.
They had 8 home games or something like that.
They didn't have 8 home games, but you know, they
didn't leave
Florida,
the state, right?
South Florida, Florida State. You know, they were Bethune-Cookman. They were down in Florida for most of the year. Let me look at that.
Yeah, just a couple shoulder presses.
Home games, Eric. Yeah, a couple shoulder presses, Jay Anderson from Anderson.
Shrugs these days.
Like look at this: Notre Dame, Bethune-Cookman, USF, Florida, Louisville, Stanford, Syracuse, NC State. Is that is that 8?
This will be their third. This will be their third out of Florida game. They played SMU on the road in Texas. Virginia Tech was number 2.
What's the spread on that game?
The Pitt game?
Yeah, you guys know.
I think it's about 9 or 10.
But Eric, am I looking at this correctly? Like
6.5 point favorite.
So it's right around that 6-7 line.
Fishy. Betting's illegal in Hawaii, so I can't do anything.
I can't believe they played 8 home games and 3 road games. How the hell is that possible?
I feel like that was brought up, or maybe not.
And number 4
in the beginning of the year
this weekend. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, good luck in the weather there, boys.
I mean, you get all 4 of your non-conference games to start the season at home. That is bizarre. That's bizarre. I mean, Miami, I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear anything about you anymore. That's some weak stuff. Eric, I think you had said something else that I wanted to touch on, but I don't remember it. But I saw this from Eric. He said all the teams that got a bye last year lost, so we know anything could happen. It's changed, though. So you had like Boise State and Arizona State getting byes last year, right? Is Arizona State?
As the Big 12 champion,
so they
Boise State
that.
as the Group of 6 champion, the Mountain West.
So,
but there were 2 teams that were Oregon was legit and Georgia was legit.
I think I had Oregon winning it all. I really liked Oregon last year, but that was a shame on me. Of course, Notre Dame playing Stanford on Saturday. Rob, let's go through a trip down memory lane. Like you know, like when you're in your 30s or right now, for me right now it's a 32-year-old. I see teenagers and I'm like, man, you guys don't even know what internet was like when I was a kid, right? Like, you guys have it good, right? Like,
Yeah.
man, if my mom was on the phone, I couldn't get on the dial-up internet. Is that how you feel a little bit with like Notre Dame and Stanford right now? It's like, man, you don't even know what it was like when I had to play Stanford.
Well, I remember Stanford game, even when Stanford was good, it wasn't even sold out because most of those what I like to call nerds were studying instead of coming to our game. So it was relatively quiet whenever we played. Even on the side we were texting earlier about Toby Gerhart, who my freshman year, that's when I realized, like, holy hell, I need to work this offseason if I want to play at this level. Toby Gerhart was the most insane live football player I think I've ever seen. That guy did everything that day. And I think there was a play where Manti had tried to hit him, and I think Toby threw him off of him, and Manti came back to the sideline. He's like, "Did you see that?" And I was like, "Dude, the whole nation saw that," And he's like, "Man, I tried to hit Toby as hard as I could, and just how strong that guy was something something I'll never forget."
So you were 1-3 against Stanford?
Yeah, we only beat them. We only beat them with that goal line stand. Yeah, my last year.
So what is your feeling about the Notre Dame Stanford rivalry? Like, is that something you want to see continue to play long term?
Well, again, they kind of whooped our ass while I was there, right? I mean, I remember they always had huge linebackers that I had to deal with. It's very similar to Boston College type linebackers, but you want to keep these traditions. I would say the Michigan one is the one that means the most, as well as USC. Navy's pretty, obviously Navy's pretty awesome, but with the option and whatnot, we talked about it. We don't need to, go back to that. But Stanford, when you think about it, you love the rivalry, but I don't know if it's been much of a rivalry the last 10 years.
Yeah. So it sounds like you like it, but you could go either way. Like you wouldn't be heartbroken.
Yeah, I mean, they're not very competitive, right? So kind of at this point, it seems pretty one-sided if we're going to call them a rival.
Despite 2022, gosh, Eric, Stanford, the Marshall game was bad that year, but Stanford was even more deflating. What's your take on this discussion?
I think what Notre Dame wants to have happen, if they're going to continue the Stanford series and there's no contract signed on that, is Stanford to count against the 5 ACC games. Now that they're in the ACC, they don't want that
right now.
It does not. It does not count,
I guess,
because it was its own thing when they were a Pac-12 team, and they had all these games scheduled way out into 2036. And so then SMU, Cal, and Stanford joined, and they're like, well, yeah, Stanford would like to play. And the ACC goes, well, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. So they have to figure that out. And I think Notre Dame will get its way, or that series will go bye-bye. I'll tell you what, Stanford has had some cycle ups that were really good. And Robbie remembers, because it was during his time. The Jim Harbaugh and David Shaw years, they were really good, and they were good in the Bill Walsh years as well. And back when I was a little kid, Jim Plunkett, when he was their quarterback, played Ohio State in the Rose Bowl and beat a really good Ohio State team. But they also cycled down at times. I don't know how quickly they'll get back up. I think Andrew Luck being in their general manager is going to help. They went to the portal for the first time in earnest this offseason. They got 17 guys in the portal, which is more transfers than they've taken in all the previous cycles combined. So maybe they will be able to kind of modernize what's going on there if they get the right coach after Frank Reich's interim period runs out. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, in 2010, Robbie was referencing this. Stanford beat up Notre Dame, BK's first year. And he said, this is what I want my team to look like someday. And then in 2012, they did, and they beat that version of Stanford in an amazing goal line stand.
Yeah. I mean, we think Notre Dame is going to just, get the best of them again in a big way like the past couple of years, or does that late start on the West Coast, do you guys think that will play a factor,
is a little bit, or when people blame, play on travel, I think it's a little bit overrated just in the fact that, we always traveled pretty comfortably and had a lot of time to rest. And, the team just seems like they're so confident. If to me, it feels like the confidence we had going into USC in 2012, where it's just, there's no way we're losing this ball game. So I think they'll be all right. And, it is nice to leave a little bit of cold and then get to California and enjoy a little bit of sunshine. And so I think there'll be some excitement, and I'm not worried about the late start.
Eric?
I'm not worried about it either from this standpoint. Notre Dame, because of the Thanksgiving holiday, has some wiggle room in terms of when they want to get out there and acclimate and so forth. It's not like they're loaded down with classes and, they can sleep in the next day. I think it's going to be okay. What I wanted to ask Robbie, though, because Robbie was a time zone traveler, and you and Manti went back to Hawaii from time to time. Which is the more difficult adjustment, going west or coming back east?
Oh man, coming back was so hard, especially because we would stay at home as long as we could, and we would get in like the day before. We would have a morning workout or whatnot, so we wouldn't get to sleep till, let's say it's midnight. That's only 7 o'clock where we were. So our body clocks took a while to catch up. And then when we come home, we get up super early, so we get the whole day. So it was nice to come back from east to west, but going back east was pretty brutal.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything, Eric, that Notre Dame needs to be concerned about with Stanford? Like, what are they particularly good at? I mean, we thought Boston College was god-awful, and then they play them 25-10, and it's like, all right, well, Syracuse is god-awful, and then Notre Dame wins 70-7. What are we going to see on Saturday?
Well, there's two. I mean, when you look at the statistical profiles of Syracuse and Stanford, they're pretty similar. There's two areas where they're big difference. One is Stanford is way better at home than they are on the road. Yeah. They were 0-6 on the road. They're 4-1 at home, and they just beat Cal 31-10. Now, a couple of those touchdowns were fumble returns for touchdowns, but those count. The other thing is run defense. They are top 25 in run defense. Now, some teams have been able to run on them, but I mean, Syracuse, they could put 9 in a box and they weren't going to stop Notre Dame. Stanford will tilt their defense that way, and I think they'll have some success for a little while, but they haven't seen anything like Jeremiah Love, and they actually didn't see much of him last year. He got 6 carries in that game because it got out of hand so quickly in that 49-7 win in Notre Dame Stadium. So we only had 6 carries in last year's Stanford game. They switched quarterbacks. Do you remember Elijah Brown from recruiting, Mike?
Yeah, as the modern day kid.
Yeah.
He was really good. I liked Notre. I wish. Was he in the 2024 class? So he's he a second year kid?
He's a second year kid.
Yeah, so I would have liked Notre Dame to go after him, but they had they got CJ pretty early.
Right.
Yeah,
so he's their quarterback now. They had been playing a 6th year guy, Ben Gulbertson, who was the starting quarterback for Oregon State in the Sun Bowl. So
I covered him when I covered Oregon State many, many moons ago.
Yeah. Well, see, he's old too.
Yep.
So
clearly. Yeah, I've been on the Notre Dame beat for 6 years, and I covered Gold Branson. So, geez.
Yeah. So, I mean, they give up so many sacks. That's the problem, and that's one of the reasons why their own rushing stats are suppressed. Is they're in the bottom 5 in rushing offense because they get sacked so much. North Carolina sacked Elijah Brown 9 times. Cal only got to him once, but there's only 3 teams in the country have given up more sacks than Stanford. So I think Notre Dame's defense is going to have a field day with them. But if Notre Dame gets sloppy with the ball, if they miss field goals, if they do silly things, which I don't think they will, I think they got it out of their system against Boston College. See, Stanford doesn't have the running game to extend the game, and I don't think they have the short passing game to shorten the game either. So I don't expect it to be a 70-7 game, but I think Notre Dame will win this game comfortably.
Well, something that we got to consider, Robbie, is the crowd noise. Like CJ Carr's gonna have a really hard time at the line of scrimmage.
I know he might want to tape in his helmet like Drew Brees so he can hear the call.
Oh my gosh! I mean,
What was it like playing out there
yeah,
in that?
You know what? I want to say my junior year we played out there, and that was some of the worst turf I've ever played on. It wasn't turf, it was grass, but I remember slipping and falling, and Chris Watt had these metal cleats that he stepped on my hand, and I thought I was done. But luckily I'm made of steel and nothing happened. But no, their field, I do remember it being pretty shitty, for lack of a better term.
What about the atmosphere? Was it pretty empty? I mean, even at
Yeah,
their
it
heyday?
was. Well, in 2011, was Luck still there? I can't remember. I don't know if Luck was there.
Yeah, I
There
think
was.
he was 2012 draft, so that might have been his senior year.
It might have been, but I don't remember it being very rowdy. It was pretty quiet. In
They study
2000,
at the game.
in 2009, when Jimmy and Golden and those guys were there, that was a fun environment. I think that was the most exciting
Okay.
Stanford game that, or besides 2012 at home. But
Right.
yeah, I remember Coach Weiss actually on Monday he had a play that he told us, I'm going to run this, and they're going to do this, and we're guaranteed going to score. And it ended up happening. So that was something that I definitely remember. But man, Toby Gerhardt, I'll go back to that. That guy was unbelievable. I've never seen a human so drained after a game. Like, I didn't even want to shake his hand because I didn't play at all. So I was like, I'm not going to shake this guy's hand. He was, I don't deserve it, but that guy was unbelievable.
Did he not result to anything professionally?
I think he got drafted by the Vikings.
He did.
But I don't think he did much.
1,600 career rushing yards, played in the NFL for 6 years. Never
Never
that's
mind.
not amazing, but
I stand corrected.
800 receiving yards over his career, 10 touchdowns. That's 6 years in the NFL. I think that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, agreed.
2014
second round pick.
Signed.
Yeah, well, I stand correct. I never really watched the Vikings, but I do remember him getting drafted and being excited for him.
Yeah, even signed a deal with the Jags in 2014 for $10 million. Now, he didn't do very much for the Jags, but bro made a bag. So good
for him.
Toby Gerhardt. Speaking of familiar names, CJ Williams was a former Notre Dame commit who flipped to USC before signing day. Totally.
And Rajon, you are correct.
Yeah.
He has finally kind of blossomed for them. He's got almost 60 catches, which is more than he's had in his other 3 seasons combined. The first one at USC and the 2 at Wisconsin. He's definitely their best receiver. Yeah. They have a tight end named Roush who's pretty good too.
Yeah, so he signed with USC, then transferred to Wisconsin, which was strange. So I'm like, man, you were committed to Notre Dame, and now you're going to play in Wisconsin, which is just even colder and not as good football. And so now he's thriving at Stanford. I'm really glad to see that. He was one of my favorite recruits to ever cover. Like, just such a fun kid to talk to. So I'm glad that he is doing well. So Eric, like with Notre Dame in the playoff, the Irish, yes, they're that doomsday scenario. It's unlikely to happen. Notre Dame should comfortably be in the field, but they don't control their own destiny. Yes, correct. Just beat Stanford, but in a way, they don't control their own destiny. Would you say it's the same thing for Jeremiah Love? Like, I think he, in the Heisman talk, he needs to have another huge game against Stanford, right? Go for, at least 100 yards and a couple touchdowns. You would hope more like 150 and, 2 or 3 touchdowns. But it kind of seems like he needs to do that to kind of hold his position, and then for the Big Ten championship game to be a clunker. Do you agree with that? Do you not agree with that?
I'm not sure that I would.
This is you as a Heisman voter.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would paint it like that. And believe me, I don't even think about my Heisman vote until it's time to vote that week, which will be. They've narrowed the window. It opens the day of the championship games and it closes Monday night. I start researching all these because I have to vote in the All-America team, AP All-America team as well. But I will say this about how this is playing out, because I've seen a lot of these. Notre Dame played this smart. they didn't overkill Jeremiah Love at the beginning of the season where you're sick of him now. He's kind of the fresh face, and you're seeing his highlights. And they're doing a great job of not promoting his numbers as much as they are promoting his highlights, because you see him, he's a visual wow guy. You look at his numbers, you're not going to see 240 yards on 32 carries, but you will see this crazy spin move and then running away from everybody else. And I think that helps him. The quarterbacks don't have overwhelming numbers either. What helps them is they're playing for teams that are at the top of the rankings. But I think Jeremiah Love presents himself very well. He's been doing all the national podcasts and Sports Center and so forth. Again, this is really well choreographed by Notre Dame to not get people sick of Jeremiah Love, because if you're out there for too long, people think of reasons not to vote for you. But now they're trying to think of reasons to vote for him. So I think he's certainly got a very good chance of being in New York and an outside chance of winning it. I think those odds are very reflective of what the Heisman voters are thinking.
That was a great take. Robbie, where do you stand?
I just think, like, when I think of Heisman, I think of Reggie Bush. I just think of an electric football player, and that's what I feel you get out of Jeremiah Love. I forgot his name. Is it Mendoza? Sorry.
Yeah.
For Mendoza, I mean, he's having a great year, but I don't see him being that electric, So I guess for me growing up, like, my example is Reggie Bush. So when I see Jeremiah Love, that's what personally I favor. So I'm going Jeremiah all day.
Robbie, who's the last Notre Dame player to be invited to New York for the Heisman ceremony? Who?
I don't know. There was a guy that I grew up with, potentially.
He wasn't a flashy running back, but
well, that's different, though. I mean,
tell me about Robbie's. Tell me about Robbie, like, Manti's season that year.
I mean, it's kind of funny, but kind of sucks for me. There'd be games where Manti would have more catches than me, and I'm just like, I'd come back to this, I'm obviously happy we won, but I'm like, damn it, you had more catches than me, bro. And, we kind of laugh about it, but, he always made a play when we needed it. And, that year it was just something else. I don't think he had an interception up until our senior year, and he had 7 or 8 of them. So
you're correct.
And I think Johnny Manziel had a good year, but not a great year, right? Johnny ended up winning it, if I'm not mistaken. But when you look at that, I mean, Manti won every single award except the Heisman, right? In order to be more decorated than him, you'd have to win the Heisman. So I do think that he got robbed of that. I mean, he made a play every time we needed it. So, let's get him that. If we could go back and revote, I think he'd get it.
I was in New York for it, and it was really, I had been there. That wasn't my first time in New York for a Heisman, but that was the neatest one that I can remember. It was just so unique, such different personalities. Colin Klein, who's now, Texas A&M's offensive coordinator from Kansas State, and then Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, they called him, and then Manti and he had all the decorative, what do they even call it? It's not a lei when it's all the leaves and stuff. What is that, Robbie?
Gosh, I forgot what he was. Was it? It wasn't a lei?
Well, it wasn't flowers. It was, like, it looked like he.
Gosh, I can't remember.
Had leaves and all that kind of stuff, but it was.
But I think they presented leis to each family as well. Manti and his family. I think they brought it for everybody.
One of the cool things was one of the games at Notre Dame where people wore leis in Manti's honor to the game, and even like the Lou Holtz statue had leis on it after.
I do remember that. I think that was the Michigan game, I believe.
Yeah, it was the Michigan game.
Yeah.
Eric, you said something I liked. J Love looks like he has cemented his invite, unless he just has a terrible game against Stanford. Or even if he has an average game against Stanford, I think that he really needs to pop off. But it seems like it's going to be Mendoza, Love, and Sayan, unless Pavia leads this like big win over Tennessee, I just think it's going to be Mendoza, Love, and Sayin. And I mean, if you would have asked, like, I wasn't on the show last Tuesday. It was my first time missing this Tuesday show in God knows how long. But if you would have told me then, like, or asked me, what do you think? I'm like, I think Love's right there on the fringe. But Eric, I love the point you made about like the buzz happening at the right time. Like, it's funny because the AP poll doesn't matter right now, but it's like a lot of the people who do the AP poll do the Heisman. So it's like, no, now you guys really, really matter. We have 4 blue and gold writers who do the Heisman, which is awesome. It's like someone, you know, involved in the Heisman voting works for blue and gold and has a good influence on that. It's definitely not me, so I wonder who it might be. But I'm rambling now, Eric. But yeah, it seems like he's really cemented himself in that top 3. Now, Eric, when we talked about this in the round table, I asked each of you, where would you vote Love right now? And everyone kind of gave their answer, and you gave your same, you know, I haven't really thought about it. But there was a comment on that show. Someone watched the replay of it and said, guys, if the writers for blue and gold do not pick Love as Heisman #1, then who will? You got to lead the charge on the campaign. So for you, as a Notre Dame writer for 2 decades, do you feel pressure to vote for the Notre Dame guy? And assuming that you had a Heisman poll in 2012, I'm sure you, or a Heisman vote in 2012, I'm sure you did. Where'd you rank Manti?
I've been voting since 1984, Mike. So Oof. I voted for Doug Flutie. That was my first one.
We talked about this
a
couple Sundays ago.
Yeah. So it has been a long time. But I did vote Manti #1 because I truly felt like he was the best football player in the country. I also felt like he was a symbol of Notre Dame coming back on college football's map. Notre Dame was back for good in 2012, even though they got smashed in the national championship game. Notre Dame isn't having this renaissance now without the 2012 team. That was the most important team, and the 2024 team. I'd say those were the 2 most important teams in this century, in the 2000s, to Notre Dame football history. Those 2 teams did more for the Notre Dame brand. And so, and there were a lot of other good ones that contributed to it too. But I disagree with the guy. I think when you're in my position, if you're a fan vote for Notre Dame guys. If you are a journalist, you have to be fair. Like if I'm on the college football playoff committee, and I'm an Ohio State alum, do I cheat and say, well, Ohio State, I got to put Ohio State up higher in the rankings? You don't do that if you're in my position. That's unethical.
Yeah. Do you want to be fair or do you want to be a little fanboy? That's what you have to decide.
Right. And if everybody's just going to vote for the people that they cover, well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot more people that aren't in Indiana than are in Indiana to vote for Jeremiah Love. I think you really have to vote for the best player. Now, having said that, I had Xavier Watts on my ballot last year as 3rd. Wow. I thought Xavier Watts impacted the 2nd best team in the country. I thought he was the most impactful player in the country or on that team. And I thought, Notre Dame had never had a unanimous All-American at safety, which he was in 2023. He was consensus in 2024. There was one team that put him 2nd team, or else he would have had it back to back. And you think about the big moments he had in the big games. He drove, I thought, was the biggest driving force to Notre Dame getting to the championship game. And that was my opinion. That's why I put him. I voted for Quentin Nelson 3rd one year.
Wow.
Because I thought I've never watched offensive guard highlights and sat there, and I could do that with a turkey leg in my hand because I thought he was that dominant and that important to what Notre Dame was doing. And again, Notre Dame having this renaissance, that 2017 team was really important, turning it around after 2016. And Quentin Nelson is freaking amazing.
So between Teo and Watts, you talked about Nelson. Did you vote in anyone else in the Heisman for Notre Dame?
I'm sure I have. It's just been a lot. I'm sure Rocket was on my
I'm
ballot.
sorry, in that span of Manti to Watts.
I'm not sure that there was somebody that jumped out at me, but those are ones that I remember. Okay. I took a screenshot of the Quentin Nelson ballot, and I think I did it Watts, and I think I still have it on my computer.
Nice.
So
that's neat.
Yeah, but I haven't always voted for the winner, but I vote for who I really feel like. Here's what I think about that in All-America teams. You could say, well, if you're not going to vote for so-and-so, well, I think it's my duty to know which Notre Dame guys deserve consideration. And also, I've written about these guys. I mean, Leonard Moore and I think Jeremiah Love are going to be first-team All-Americans. Beyond that, it'll be interesting if some other guys get on the team somewhere. I'm really going to have to compare other players on the team and see if there's somebody else. KVA didn't have enough snaps and so forth, but I think KVA is probably Notre Dame's second best defensive player. And I think he's in a conversation. They have so many good linebackers, and you think about who else. There's not an offensive lineman that's going to, be on there. Tight end, wide receivers, there's not. It really is going to be Leonard Moore and Jeremiah Love. Those are pretty easy selections.
Yeah.
But I mean, to put, Tay Johnson, someday I will have Tay Johnson on my All-American team. I've already predicted that.
Yeah.
I think he will be.
Yeah, Eric, I'm glad you said that, and you put it perfectly. Like your job is not to put on blue and gold pom-poms and wave them in the air. Like, those channels out there exist where it's like very far support Notre Dame and or very negative Notre Dame, like blue and gold, although I tend to, get goofy at times and everything. Like, we're the pros. We're the professional channel around here. We have a lot of full-time employees who we do this for a living. We talk and write about Notre Dame. So, I mean, 4 Heisman voters. That's impressive that we have at blue and gold. So that you put it perfectly. Like, yeah, be fair. Like, there's other journalists who I'm sure out there are not fair who vote on the Heisman. They're just going to vote for their team or whatever. But I'm glad that that you don't. Robbie, anything you want to add on the Heisman discussion here?
No, but I agree with what Eric's saying, but I don't think that you're waving pom-poms around by saying Jeremiah Love is the best player in the country if you were to vote for him. So
right.
I think that I think the country, But if you're voting for Robbie Toma as the Heisman winner, then we got some issues. But
right, good
point. A guy like Jeremiah Love is. I feel like the whole country's got a lot of respect for that guy. So.
For example, let's say I had said Dexter Williams, and I love Dexter Williams. Mm-hmm. I think he's a really good back. But if I said Dexter Williams should win the Heisman, then people aren't going to believe me when I say Jeremiah Love is the best player.
Sure.
So you have to. You see what I'm saying? You have to mean it.
Correct.
Yeah. This comment says they would love to see you shaking blue and gold pom-poms. Eric, did you have Genty or Travis Hunter last year?
I voted for Ashton Genty.
Oh man, I like Genty.
You and Horka did. I'm so glad that you guys did. What about Tyler James?
I don't know. You'll have to ask him because I don't know who he did. I still have my
disappointed
somewhere
with Travis Hunter winning that thing. I think it should have been Genty. And
100%.
He lifted that team to be a playoff team and one that had a first round bye. I thought Travis Hunter was amazing, but where was Colorado as a team?
Yeah. Completely agree. All right. Well, really fun show. Robbie, anything else you want to add before we get you out here?
No, I think I am a little biased as I'm wearing my Punahou shirt, but I was looking at the PFF. There was a breakdown of the defense, and I got to give some love to Kahanu Kia. I know Kingston's down, and we're gonna rely on Madden and Kahanu, but Kahanu's been through a whole lot with injuries and whatnot. And so with 17 snaps, he was one of the highest performers, and I'm really rooting for the kid, and I hope he makes an impact for us. And he's been waiting for this moment. So
Yeah.
and unfortunately, it comes at a time when an injury happened. I mean, I had a similar situation when Theo went down. These are their best friends, and you hate to get in because of that, but it truly is part of the business. And I hope Kingston has a speedy recovery, but I'm rooting for Kahanu.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. Something about
it's
those
amazing.
Polynesian linebackers, huh, Robbie?
Something about him, man. Hey, you don't think that they can cover, but I think his coverage rating was like an 80, so he had a good. So good on you, Connor. Way to go.
It's amazing that he's a redshirt sophomore still, because
He's like
he had
35.
Yeah, I know. He's almost as old as me.
I used to say being a sophomore at Ohio State were the best 3 years of my life.
That's good. But yeah, I do got to get running pretty soon, guys. I got to get my son.
All right. Eric said, happy holidays, safe travels. We'll try to stay awake for Saturday's show. Yeah. Look, if you watch the game and you still are awake, Eric and I will be live for, I don't know, we'll see. I don't know. An hour, maybe. I don't know, half hour. We'll talk Notre Dame, Stanford. So if you're up, please join us for that. Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, of course, for more content. Awesome show. So if you're just joining us, rewind, watch in the beginning. We talked about the CFP rankings. We took a trip down memory lane, talked about Robbie's time playing against Stanford. Took a look at this game on Saturday. And then, of course, wrapped up here by talking Jeremiah Love for Heisman. Some really good stuff from Eric and Robbie today. So that is going to do it for this show. No six-pack show tomorrow. No recruiting show Thursday. Our next live show will be the recruiting show on Friday. And then, of course, again, Sunday morning, 1 a.m., whatever, we'll be live to talk about Notre Dame, Stanford. Hit the thumbs up if you have not done so yet, and we'll catch you guys next time.